Many thanks for clicking on to attheraces.com as we look forward to the Cheltenham Festival, and now we're casting our eye onto the Racing Post Arkle. Joining us to give us his expert thoughts is pro punter Andy Gibson. We'll be hearing from him in just a second. First of all, let's have a look then through the 2 pages of entries for the Arkle. We can take out some of the key contenders here. Ferof runs for Paul Nicholls, Blackstare Mountain for Willie Mullins, Q Card for Colin Tizard, Kid Cassidy, well, he's got another entry at the festival, but he still is in the Arkle for Nicky Henderson. Willie Mullins also with Sar de Champ. Nicky Henderson, well, although he's got further up the list there other options, he's got the main contender here, Sprinter Sacre, who's bidding to win yet again and maintain his unbeaten record over fences. And we can now have a look at the betting for the Arkle. And Sprinter Sacre, well, it's become a very short price recently, 8 to 11. Ferof at 11 to 4. 6 to 1 for Q Card. Manora is at 8 to 1. It's 14 to 1 bar those. And we can see the Arkle favourite Sprinter Sacre in winning action.
Coming up towards it now, another good leap. Leads by 4. Lightning Rod is trying hard to reel him in, but Sprinter Sacre is full of beans, full of running, as he comes down towards the final fence here. David Bass then and Sprinter Sacre, and he whooshes over that here and is coming clear inside the final furlong, and he's going to make an impressive winning chase debut, the sort of debut we'd all hoped for here. And another Arkle contender emerges with Sprinter Sacre, who bolts up here at Doncaster by the best part of 15 lengths from Lightning Rod.
Sprinter Sacre winning at Doncaster. He's gone on to win 2 subsequent starts, and even looking back at that first run, Andy, the horses behind him, second and third, have been beaten a country mile, but have both franked the form. He's looked ultra impressive. He's blown everybody away. There's been superlatives flying around left, right and centre. Have you been quite in that gang, or have you been a little bit more tempered in your enthusiasm?
No, I mean, as a horse racing lover, you couldn't ask for more, could you? I mean, absolutely brilliant to watch. Last time out was just so sparkling, wasn't it? It was just wonderful to watch and really, really exciting. That's one side of it, and then you've got to get your betting head on and have a look at it from another side and think, well, what's he done and what hasn't he done? And I think that's probably a more interesting question to ask yourself.
Well, he took on the elders last time out. He gave a good beating to the likes of his stablemate French Opera. He broke the track record, still on the bridle. And just looking for what Nicky Henderson's saying, he doesn't seem to be... He's not a trainer who would often get massively carried away, but he seems to be really excited by this horse. The one concern I'd have is that last year he went to Cheltenham, he cruised up the hill. Admittedly, he took up the race a long way from home, but he cruised up the hill, got to the final flight, and he stopped to a walk. And that, if I was punting in this race, would be the angle I'd be trying to think, well, is there going to be something that's going to stay stronger than him up the hill?
Well, the ground last time at Newbury wasn't ground that you would expect the track record to be broken on. Another horse that day, I think, broke the track record as well, didn't he?
He did. I can't remember which one, but it wasn't one you'd expect to be breaking a track record.
Which has to make that extremely dubious, I would have thought. I think that might be more to do with where the rails were. I don't know, but, surely, unlikely that 2 horses on a day where you wouldn't have the ground would break the track record. We'll see. But absolutely fantastic performance. The interesting point with him, as you alluded to there, is that if you go back to the start of this season, and you said that approaching the second last fence, you had Manora, you had possibly Q Card, you had this horse, Sprinter Sacre, you had Ferof, Pedlar's Cross, let's have a chat about him in a minute, approaching the second last fence. If you had 3 stabs at that race at who was going to win and outbattle the others up the hill, Sprinter Sacre wouldn't be in the 3 for most people, I would suggest, at the start of the season. Now, he's done nothing in 3 flat track wins, as impressive as they've been, to inform us regarding that ability to get up the hill either way. So we're still in the dark, we still don't know, but he's 8 to 11. I mean, let's see what he finds off the bridle. We just don't know. No,
and just to pick up there, you mentioned Pedlar's Cross, who was on this race. He gave this... Sprinter Sacre gave Pedlar's Cross a very impressive beating at Kempton over the Christmas period. At the time, you could think, well, Pedlar's Cross was a little bit below par, but if you're then trying to pick holes in Sprinter Sacre, you could look at him and say, well, he was below par, he's not come back to his best, maybe he's not the same horse as we've seen in previous seasons, so that form isn't worth what people think it is.
Yeah, and that might be the case with the form. It is, again, much more the fact that Sprinter Sacre has been so incredibly pleasing to the eye that has led to him being 8 to 11. I mean, and he has, undoubtedly, hasn't he? I mean, if this was run on a flat track, you'd be struggling to find negatives.
Yes, the hill is the negative.
It is.
Hill, not the negative, though, for a horse who took on his elders last time out. And this, I think, is the best bit of form and offer to finish in behind the likes of Summersby. He didn't seem to travel this day. This was the Victor Chandler chase at Ascot. He didn't seem to travel with the usual fluency against those elder horses, but he certainly, as you say there, finished the race off very well.
Yeah, and it's and this looked primarily a three-runner race to me until sort of the recent news about Pedlar's Cross, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute. But this was good form to be able to jump round at this pace, finish close up. You would say that was form good enough to absolutely see him in the first three, and perhaps a little bit more. And with the added bonuses, you've got this horse running on strongly up the Cheltenham Hill, better than anything else last year.
And of course, he beat Sprinter Sacre in a very sort of similar circumstance. Sprinter Sacre out in front, and he was the strong stayer that came and nailed him.
And Q Card in fourth, was he?
Yep, in fourth, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the form. This horse jumps, he travels at pace, and he's obviously 3 or 4 times the price of Sprinter Sacre.
Could you maybe just see an aspect where Sprinter Sacre has gone for home? This horse is staying on well, suggesting he wants a little bit further in time rather than reversing the form?
Possibly. Very possibly. Yeah, I think we have to be... The thing is with, we talk about this often with the odds-on favourites at the Cheltenham Festival. Of the last 16, 6 have won, 10 have been beaten. Many of them will have had rock-solid profiles where people couldn't see them being beaten before the race, and you simply don't make money backing short-price horses at the festival. The only thing we need to do is draw a line through anything short, focus our betting intentions elsewhere, and make that our starting point.
Yeah, well, with that in mind, let's have a look then at Q Card, a horse who absolutely stormed away with the champion bumper a couple of years ago. He was fourth in the Supreme last year, when connections have said this year maybe wasn't his best last term. He had a long break between Christmas and Cheltenham and wasn't quite at his very best. Here he is in action. And what have you made of Q Card so far? Joe Tizard saying last weekend he's going to be quite keen to get out from the front and try and make it a proper test to take Sprinter Sacre out of his comfort zone.
I think he comes into the category of, if everything goes well for him, he has some sort of a chance. But it's an interesting horse in that because he won the bumper a couple of years ago so impressively, he was touted at that point as a champion in the making. And what happens when we hear those comments is that it gets hyped out of all proportion, and no matter what the horse does in the meantime, he's still talked about as being that champion. Well, Q Card hasn't actually got any form in the book that says he's a champion, apart from the bumper. And his form over fences is okay. Well, it's very good, but in the context of this race, it's okay. I'm not convinced by his jumping, personally. I don't think, if I was a jockey, I don't think I'd want to be travelling behind him. I'd prefer to be travelling behind him than Kid Cassidy, but I wouldn't want to be travelling behind Q Card. And, good luck. They may well jump round on the day. Do you remember Tidal Bay running in this race? I felt very much the same with Tidal Bay. If everything went well for him, he could turn out to be an impressive winner, but I felt very concerned about his jump. Exactly the same with Q Card. If everything goes well, he could be a contender. I'd prefer not to be on his side myself.
Yeah, I think he's got the class for one. He made that jumping mistake at Cheltenham early in the season. His jumping at Chepstow wasn't great, and every time he's finished over fences, there's only been a 3 or 4 runner field. He's never been in a big hurly-burly sort of a face. But another horse who we're looking here who's had jumping frailties is most definitely Manora, who we can see him winning here at Taunton back on the 30th of December. But since then, he's gone to Doncaster, and the jumping frailties have come into evidence once again, as we just see there at the final fence.
And the shame of this horse is that he jumps most of the fences really well, I think. It's possible, again, like Q Card, if everything goes well for him, he's a contender. More so than Q Card, because he's a 162 rated hurdler, which I think is what you need in this race. So if everything goes... Here, I think we're just about to fall here, is he? Yep.
That was very early on as well, wasn't it, Doncaster?
It was. And he was tracking Kid Cassidy, I noticed there. But Kid Cassidy, I think, is an outsider for this race. I'd be very wary about that one. But for me, Manora, if everything goes well, he is a contender. It may be that the faster pace brings out the better jumping in him. And if he were a double-figure price, I think he would be a horse that I wouldn't mind having a small saver on just in case.
OK, well, I think you just alluded to his following Kid Cassidy there at Doncaster. It's almost like the blind leading the blind. He's a horse who's been very, very difficult to predict over fences. He took a very heavy fall early on, but his jumping's not very good. If you look at all of the equipment he carries, he's got a muzzle on, he's got blinkers, he's got eye shields. Very, very tricky customer. I wouldn't be inclined to be getting overly involved with Kid Cassidy.
No, he'll look very... I think he'll look very excitable. if not exciting, in the Arkle. If he goes for the Arkle, indeed, he's much shorter in the betting for another race. We're probably going to have egg on our face. He's probably going to lead all the way, win by 20 pounds.
Followed home by Manora.
And Q Cash. But for me, you wouldn't want to be going near Kid Cassidy, for me.
Just one other point with Manora. I just don't think he won the international hurdle a couple of years ago, and for me, he's never matched that level of form since. His reputation's been built around that particular performance.
Yeah, and he's run on maybe arguably slightly softer ground. You could make little tiny excuses, but you would have liked to have seen a better profile over the last year or two for a horse coming into a Grade 1 race with his recent profile over fences. I mean, he's made serious errors in all 3 of his chases. You'd be concerned about him. But with the quality of his hurdle form, he just has a small chance in a race where I don't think there's an awful lot of strength in depth behind the front 2.
No, Sprinter Sacre could be the next Pegasus. We'll find out very shortly if he stays at the Hill. What would your be selections, or what would be the betting angle for this contest? Well,
we're assuming at this moment in time, I think that Pedlar's Cross isn't running. I don't know if anybody was daft enough to back him anti-post.
Well, there's one or two people may have had a little investment at a very short price, yeah.
Yeah, me too. So we're out there, but I think this race evolves or revolves around the bookmaker offers, really. And we don't know if Sprinter Sacre is going to get up the hill. Ferof is clearly the second best contender, if not the best contender. We can back it with a bookmaker who will offer us our money back if Sprinter Sacre doesn't get up the hill. If he does get up the hill, I beg your pardon. And, why would you want to bet in any other situation? You've got the added bonus. If Sprinter Sacre wins, you get your money back. I'd back Ferof in those circumstances.
That sounds like very good logic. So Ferof in that specials market behind Sprinter Sacre for the Arkle.